All right, everybody, welcome to Mondays with Mike. Now, you may be wondering, Mike, I thought you were the meteorologist. I thought you were going to talk about weather. Why are we talking about Taylor and Travis Kelce? Now, to be honest with you, I don't really care about Travis Kelce, but Taylor, let me tell you something. If you don't have daughters, I can't express to you the importance of Taylor Swift. She is Elvis and the Beatles all wrapped up in one. And Michael Jackson. Well, maybe not Michael Jackson, but you know what I mean. She's as big as Michael Jackson was, maybe bigger, although people would probably dispute that. Here's the deal. What does Taylor have to do with weather? Well, here's the problem. Okay. So the Super Bowl is being played in 2 weeks. And Taylor just happens to be on a giant world tour that she's been on for the last year and a half. And she is coming from a sold out show in Tokyo. So the problem is she's going to have a very short window of time from finishing her concert in Tokyo to getting all the way over to Las Vegas, hopefully getting some sleep and being able to watch the Chiefs take on the 49ers in Las Vegas. So I want to show you how a really unusual pattern setting up in the Pacific Ocean might actually help Taylor get to the game. And, you know, honestly, you know, the NFL wants her at that game. you know, you know, the NFL wants her at that game, right? So anybody, thank you for joining me for Mondays with Mike. I hope you're enjoying the weather. Finally, we got rid of that ice and then got rid of the heavy rain and all the doom and gloom. It's now everything is very nice. So let's get into this. What's the deal? Well, let's take you over here to Japan, where Taylor is going to be playing a concert. In fact, she's doing a whole tour of Asia. Look, she's been all over the world. You know, she sold out 3 nights at NRG Stadium. She sold out 4 nights at the SoFi Stadium out in Los Angeles. Look, she sold out everything. She could probably stay in one spot and just continue selling it out as long as she wants to. So she's selling out, of course, in Tokyo. But the problem is it coincides a little bit with the Super Bowl. No, I don't know how many hours she's going to have to make it from Tokyo to Las Vegas. I think it's going to be something like 36 hours, maybe a little less. So why am I bringing this up? Well, because there's an unusual phenomenon that's happening across the Pacific Ocean. And I'm calling it like the super jet stream. So when you're flying, and a lot of you probably know this, when you are flying from west to east, if you're maybe taking a trip from Houston to London, I was just talking to our BackstageOL.com, our movie review guys, Dave Morales and John Stenval, and they said, you know, when Dave flew to London, the flight only took 8 hours. Houston to London only took 8 hours. Ordinarily takes like 9.5, and then it takes a lot longer on the way back. But the pilot said they have such an incredible tailwind that they were able to get there in a much shorter amount of time. Well, Taylor and her huge entourage, okay, they have to travel from Tokyo all the way over to Las Vegas, which is a little bit less than 5,000 miles. My first question was, can they make it all in one trip? Because I don't know what kind of plane they're on, but I did look up Gulfstream. Gulfstream makes all those really high-end private jets, corporate jets and stuff. And actually their Gulfstream, they have an ER, which is an extended range. That thing can fly 7,500 miles on one trip. So that's a pretty amazing range. So I think getting from Tokyo to Las Vegas is not going to be a problem, even though it is just shy of 5,000 miles. And here's another reason why. Now, pilots will generally take this route called the Great Circle route, which looks curved on this map, but if you were to look at a globe, it's a straight line. Because that's generally the fastest way to get there. Although, of course, they have to steer around storms and turbulence and things like that. Well, this time around, they may want to steer themselves right into this, which is this super jet stream that's taking place right now. Why do I call it a super jet stream? What are we talking about? The jet stream is a narrow sort of river of air, a narrow channel of air that reaches its peak in the far upper portions of what's called the troposphere. So basically, not in the stratosphere, not quite in the stratosphere, but just before that is where we have the highest winds in the jet stream. And that also happens to be where jet aircraft fly. We're talking about 37,000 feet, maybe even up to 40,000 feet. This is where we have the jet stream. And it tends to flow, maybe it's 100. They measure it in knots. They like using knots, which is a nautical mile per hour, which is about 6,000 feet. But here's the deal. Right now, across the central Pacific Ocean, it's blowing at about 220 miles per hour. So what does that mean? Well, it means you get a 220 mile per hour tailwind. Now, these jets can fly anywhere between like 550, 650 miles an hour. Very, very fast without any accounting for a headwind or a tailwind. Okay, so maybe it's 550, maybe it's 600, maybe it's 650. And that is what we call airspeed. If you add a headwind or a tailwind to that, then that can affect what's called the ground speed. So if you have a 200 mile per hour or a 220 mile per hour tailwind, and you're already going 600 miles per hour, now you're talking about going 820 miles per hour with respect to the ground. So what does this have to do with Taylor? Well, what it means is that, and I looked ahead at the GFS and the Euro computer model forecasts for 2 weeks from today, basically. And it does show that, in fact, the jet stream might actually intensify a little bit. So we're looking at the jet blowing off of the coast of Japan, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 220 knots, which would put us above 250 miles per hour. I mean, just a screaming jet. You could even see a swift moving jet, a very swift jet to swiftly get Taylor to the Swifter Bowl, which is being played in Las Vegas. So her plane is going to be just zooming across the Pacific Ocean, which is sort of like, it tells me it's like Mother Nature's way of making sure that Taylor gets to the Super Bowl. Don't you think? I mean, it's serendipity, isn't it? I think so. So what is the deal with the jet stream? I actually did bring my whiteboard here too to talk about it a little bit, but the jet stream is going to set up generally where you have temperature contrasts. So when we get cold fronts that come into Texas, there usually is going to be a dip in the jet stream, and that dip lies along where the cold air, where there's the greatest difference in temperatures at the surface or at the lower levels of the atmosphere. So in this case, we're in an El Nino type of season. So the equatorial waters here are warm. And then, of course, the temperature near the pole is always very cold. But when you get into a pattern here where this jet is blowing what you call zonal, just straight west to east, and there's a very tight, what we call a gradient taking place between the height of the atmosphere at the tropics, where it's, warm air expands, right? So you have this very tall atmosphere in the tropics. And then up at the poles, you have this very kind of skinny atmosphere because it's so cold and compressed. And in between the two, you have that swift jet stream. So that's what's happening right now. And it looks like that trend is going to continue, actually, taking us into the Super Bowl, which, by the way, it could also bring us some storms coming up by the late part of the week. I got to use the whiteboard from time to time. Okay. I got to do that. So let's say here's Taylor. Here's Taylor right there. And here's Travis over here. And like I've said, I don't really like him that much. But whatever. So here he is, and he's playing football over here. Here's Taylor over here. Now they need to get closer together. All right. And in order to get there, they have to find the best route. So the pilots, okay, so they're leaving Tokyo here. And there are a lot of different things that they have to consider. They have to consider fuel. They have to consider the weather conditions, both leaving Tokyo and arriving in Las Vegas, the tailwind, turbulence, because you don't want, we don't want Taylor. Taylor's going to have to sleep on the plane, right? If it's too much turbulence, she's not going to be able to get rest, and then she's not going to be happy for the game, right? So you have to take all of these things into account, and I'm sure lots of other things too. You also have to plan, alternates, like if they can't fly into Las Vegas, what are their alternate airports going to be? They probably have at least two pilots. Maybe they even have a third pilot on board just in case one of the pilots goes down. I mean, I'm sure they can afford that. And all of this. And so, of course, then Taylor's got to pay for all the fuel too, which she probably wouldn't have a problem paying for. So to get to Las Vegas, typically, so if you have a globe like this, and here's Las Vegas and here's Tokyo, you probably heard of the Great Circle route. So to fly like this is actually longer than to fly like that. And it seems strange, but like if you're flying from, let's say you're flying from Los Angeles to London, I think they have those flights. They have to go like over the North Pole because that's the shortest route between the two places. But you can deviate from this if there's a good reason to. So if up here, let's say the jet is blowing at 50 miles per hour, tailwind, but over here it's blowing at 250, then the pilots will probably choose that path where they're going to be able to ride, sort of right along that jet stream, just ride it and just get pushed all the way over to Las Vegas. So, yeah, it's definitely something that's very interesting. Now, being a pilot, they have to account for things like this all the time, mostly because being like a commercial airline pilot, they're concerned about conserving fuel and things like that, because they're doing it the airline wants to earn money, right? And so they want to take the path of sort of least resistance to save money on fuel. And I imagine, though, that money is going to be no option for this trip, for Taylor's trip from Tokyo to Las Vegas. So I don't know. Have you heard enough about it? I mean, I know some people are tailored out. I've heard that. I mean, I'm not. I mean, my daughters are excited about it, and probably they wouldn't be interested in watching the game otherwise, other than maybe the commercials and the halftime show, like watching the halftime show. But I am going to guarantee you that the network, and it's not on Fox this year, unfortunately, but the network showing the game is going to be showing her after every Travis Kelce catch. That I can almost assure you. Definitely. All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit. Hold on. Let me just set my computer here up to talk about what's coming our way. All right. So we do have rain on the way. That rain is not going to be here until the end of the week, though. And it actually is tied in with that super crazy swift jet stream. Now, the next few days, today through Thursday looks calm. In fact, it should be really, really beautiful. It's going to allow a lot of that river flooding to drain, and everything looks fine. Coming up by Friday, we are going to start to see the arrival, most likely, of some rain late in the day today. It may hold off till Saturday, but it's all a part of that big system that's going to be coming in from the Pacific Ocean, which may dump a lot of snow out in the Rocky Mountains as well. The other thing I want you to know about is we still do have that river flooding taking place. The river flooding is a problem for the Liberty County area. So we're talking about the town of Liberty, where the Trinity River is running high. And we also have river flooding in some spots down around the San Bernard River. So we're talking about Bowling and down to just west of West Columbia in Brazoria County. Those are some of the spots that are a little bit of a trouble spot. Otherwise, it's not really affecting Houston proper. So other than the river flooding we have out there right now, everything else is pretty hunky-dory. It's just really nice out there. So enjoy the sunshine today. And enjoy it certainly heading into the rest of the week, because we're going to really have several days in a row of some nice dry weather. Now, by the end of the week, Friday is Groundhog Day. So, which, by the way, is always a challenge for those of us in morning news, because we always go up to Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, right? We go up to Punxsutawney and we wait for the groundhog to be let out of his cage, and they hold him up and do the hold, and they got to read off of the scrolls and all of that stuff. So it's fun, but it always butts up against a commercial break. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. And in the world of TV, you can only move that commercial break back so much unless it's something that's super important. If the president comes on and is speaking, or if there's some, you know, explosion or something, then yeah, you can go ahead and push that commercial break back. Punxsutawney Phil is kind of like, I don't know. You don't know when he's going to come out. So a lot of times he'll end up coming out of his den during a commercial break. And that's always really inconvenient. That's never a good thing. But what are you going to do? So coming up by Thursday, see there, coming up on Thursday. On Thursday, it looks good. Friday's Groundhog Day. Saturday is when we have the Taylor Swift Jetstream coming in. Round one. There'll be another round two coming in. But right now, I got to tell you, it actually looks pretty nasty. Let me go ahead and share the screen with you before I let you go, because it really is a pretty strong system that's coming our way on next week. So let me go ahead, or on this weekend, excuse me. So let me go ahead and switch this to CONUS, so continental United States. And I will put on this precipitation and moisture. And you're going to see here heading into, so this little slider bar, and by the way, I'm on tropicaltidbits.com, which is run by Levi Cowan, who's a fellow Florida State Seminole, and it's a great website. So this is walking us through this week. Now look at this right there. You see at the bottom of your screen, let me go ahead and zoom in on Texas, because this is going to be our troublemaker coming up this weekend. So this is Saturday morning. So here we go. Here's Friday night. So boom, boom. Now look, here's Saturday morning. You see that big L? Well, it's a little L, but it's a strong L that's there in the Texas Panhandle. That's probably going to create a lot of snow on its backside and most likely some very windy conditions across parts of the country. It's a weird setup. We don't see this very often, really, to have such a wrapped up area of low pressure over Texas. A lot of times you'll see these things over the Midwest or like the East Coast, real common on the East Coast, like New England, nor'easters and stuff. So this isn't going to be as strong as a nor'easter, but just the fact that it's zipping around like that doesn't happen very often. And so it could bring a lot of rain. In fact, we could even look at some estimated rainfall amounts. Here's 24-hour rainfall estimates, and it's showing some of these little light purples showing up, which puts us in this 2.5 to 3 inch range. So it may be a little bit early to, freak out about it, but this is Saturday. It's going to be real interesting. But just to show you that this is related to Taylor, well, eventually, is that we can look at the jet stream and how it's flowing in. Here we go, North America. Look at the jet stream and how it's flowing into our area and see that, yes, indeed, it is affecting our forecast. So here we go. So you see this big purple area? Let me back it up to what I was just showing you. Okay, so on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see this bright pink that's coming in here. This is across the Pacific Ocean. That's that super jet stream that I just told you about. So fast forwarding in time, you'll see here that super jet kind of snakes its way here over Texas. You see that? Right there. And so that is Saturday. So that's it. It gives a shot in the arm. It sends a lot of energy into the atmosphere, and that could lead to rain and storms and generally winds and things like that. And there should be another one behind it eventually, like right there. That'll be February the 10th, which, by the way, that's Super Bowl weekend. So anyway, it's kind of neat. It's an unusually strong jet stream, really unusually strong. So that's why I'm kind of highlighting it, and it's just an interesting tie-in with the Super Bowl and everything. So I don't know, who do you got? Who do you got? The Chiefs or the 49ers? I got to say, I think the Chiefs are going to take it because it's a fairy tale story, and it's the story that I think the NFL wants. Not that I'm a conspiracy theorist, but there you go. So thanks so much for tuning in for this week's edition of Mondays with Mike. I want to give a shout out to my brother and my mom watching from Florida, and any of my other friends and family might be watching, and all of you my friends who are watching here right now. I hope you enjoy the great weather this week and keep an eye out for Saturday. And we will, of course, keep you informed of the Swifty forecast.